Hey, it's Ethan here at eTrailer. Today we're going to be taking a look at showing you how to install Yakima OverHaul HD truck bed ladder rack on our 2022 GMC Sierra 1500. It is adjustable so you can accommodate some different heights, but it's a great way to get some longer, larger loads on top of your truck, whether that be ladders, whether that be some sports and rec things like kayaks, skis, snowboards, anything that you want to get on your crossbars here, we can do that. It's got a weight capacity of 500 pounds, but it's also rated for off-road usage, but that's going to drop your weight capacity down to 300 pounds. It's really modular, it's really nice to work with, so let's check it out. For our setup, we have 78-inch heavy-duty crossbars on here. They're going to be very useful for getting the accessories that we want on here without extending past the overall width of our truck. They stay within the mirrors, so as long as you have clearance to get your mirrors through, you'll be able to get the crossbars through as well. And they're long enough with that overhang that we can get a myriad of accessories on there, anything that I listed at the beginning. Also, we do have a T-track slot at the top to accommodate your T-track accessories, especially with these heavy-duty crossbars. A lot of clamps and things don't fit around them as well as they would on an Aero-style crossbar, so the fact that we have that T-track is nice, and it's got a rubberized strip going through it, so it's going to cut down on that wind noise as long as you don't have accessories in there. On the end caps of our crossbars, you can see that we do have this spot. If you want to, you can tie a strap down or a hook, whatever means you can fit through there to secure your gear down. There's one of these on each end of either crossbar. At its highest point, the system is going to extend 30 inches above your truck bed rails, and at its lowest point, it's going to be 19 inches. So those are the numbers you're going to want to keep in mind as far as, will I have clearance, especially if I'm loading things up on the top. Maybe you just want to be able to keep these on while you're storing your car in your garage. At the lowest point, maybe you want to make sure that you have clearance between your tonneau cover if you want that to be on with the ladder rack system, which you can actually do with this ladder rack. Or maybe you just want to make sure you have clearance underneath for clamps, whatever have you. 30 inches at the top, 19 inches at the bottom. Built into each of the towers, there is this metal anchor point, which is going to allow you to strap down some more gear. It's going to be a great place for you to secure things. Underneath that, there is a bottle opener also built into each one of those if you want to crack a cold one after a long day. That all fits into our quick change base system, which makes it so that if we want to just pop this ladder rack off in the event that we're going somewhere and we need more clearance, or we just, for whatever reason, want to get these removed, all you need to do is loosen up these face plates on either side, and the ladder rack can just come right out. We'll take a closer look at that when we do the install. There is a lock core available for one of the base plates on either side, so there's a non-locking base and a locking base. Make sure you put one locking base on either set of the crossbars, which is just going to secure the base to your rails, and someone can't just come up and remove the whole system and take your ladder rack. The whole system is composed of aluminum with a black powder coat finish, so it's going to be really lightweight, but still rated for up to 500 pounds, like I mentioned, as long as you keep things on road. And with that black powder coat finish, it's going to be really resistant to UV rays, rust, weather, and corrosion. It's going to hold up for a long time. Overall, if you're looking for a ladder rack system that is adjustable, really easy to install, take off if you don't want to leave it on there, the Yakima OverHaul HD system is a really solid option. This right here was with our 78-inch crossbars, which is going to give us a solid amount of overhang without being too wide. And with the lock cores on either side, the whole thing is going to be secure, really easy to work with and really easy to use. The only drawback that I can think of is the fact that we do have to loosen up the crossbars if we want to make those adjustments. So if you don't love that, you can check out something like the Thule Exporter Pro ladder rack. It's going to work in a similar way, but it's just a little bit easier to raise and lower with the knobs on the side, rather than having to loosen everything and tighten it back up. But if you do want the durability, usability, ease of install that comes with the Yakima OverHaul HD system, it's still a really solid choice. For the install, the first thing we like to do typically is just to lay everything out and make sure we have everything. Here we have our 78-inch crossbars, we have our towers, we have a regular base, a locking base, the clamps, all the clamp hardware, lock core, plates, screws, and our 4, 6, and 10 millimeter Allen keys respectively, as well as a tape measure. This doesn't come with it, but we recommend it just for a couple of reasons that we'll show you throughout the video. But first thing we're going to do is get our bases set up. We already have our front crossbar set up, so we're just going to be doing the back. The process is going to be the same for both though. So I have my pad where I want it to be. This side is going to be the non-locking side. We have the locking pad on this side on the front crossbar, so we're going to switch that up here. Kind of just set it up. In our case, we have some things under the rails that are going to interfere, so we want to make sure that we're at a good distance for our accessories, but also we want to make sure that we're going to have room underneath for our clamps. So we found a spot that's going to accommodate both here. Just make sure you measure, get that distance so you can set up your other base on the other side. From here, we'll start getting our bases clamped down, starting with these large square washers. Just fit them in these channels here, just like that. Let them rest there. Grab your clamps, find that spot underneath where we're set up. Thread this bolt through, make sure they line up, and we'll just hand tighten down for now until we get to the point where we can tighten everything down with that 10 millimeter Allen tool. Just hand thread that and repeat the process over here at the front. Try to separate them as far as you can just for that distribution of pressure. But in the event that you do have some things underneath your rails like we do, that's why one of the benefits of these bases is how wide those channels are, especially here on the front, so you can accommodate that. Now I'll come back with that 10 millimeter Allen tool and tighten these down fully. We'll just repeat the process we just showed you for the base on the other side, in this case the locking side. Doing the same thing, just placing those washers in, getting the clamps lined up, fitting the bolts in and tightening them down. Once we have both of the bases on and clamped down, we'll loosen up these face plates just so they're ready to accept the towers. So for this side, we'll have to use the 6 millimeter Allen key. Just loosen it up with the tool and then hand thread it if you want to speed things along a little bit. Just wide enough that it'll accept the towers. You don't want to pull the bolt out. Now we'll loosen up this side with the lock post on the other end. And once that's loose enough, we'll hand thread that out again as well. Our next step after getting the bases on and unlocked is to get our towers installed. So we'll do that right now. It's really straightforward, especially since we already opened up that faceplate. Just slide it in, sort of angled back, get them resting in place. I'll hand thread this until I get to the point where I can't anymore. And then I will use the 6 millimeter Allen key that we used to get it off to tighten it back up. And we'll repeat the process on the other side, again using the 4 millimeter Allen key instead of the 6. We can prepare our crossbars. We use this 4 millimeter Allen key to loosen up this bolt that holds our end cap on. And then we'll take the end cap off once we're able to get this fully out. And then we're going to slide those metal plates that we talked about at the very beginning into here. And they're going to hold the crossbars in place to our towers. So we have one metal plate, slide it through, and we have two. And then we can get this back on, tighten this bolt back down, and then once we're done with that, we'll get the crossbars loosely in place on the towers. Before we get our crossbar on though, we are going to want to check and see what height we're going to want the ladder rack to be at. For our case, we're going to have it at the highest it can go, just to make sure that we get clearance from our bed. So we're going to have to loosen up 4 of these bolts using the 6 millimeter Allen key, 1 or 2 on either side. Just loosen those up till we get to the point where we're actually able to extend the uprights. So should be loose enough now. Lift up. Like I mentioned, we're going to go up all the way. And just the nature of this system, we're not going to be able to raise and lower these with the crossbars on. So we're going to make sure that we do that beforehand. Tighten these back down, repeat the process on the other side, and then we'll get our crossbars loaded up. With both of our towers fully on and fully up, I'm going to put my crossbar on. I'm going to do it upside down for now, just fit it loosely in place, because we do have rulers underneath the bottom here. I'm going to use either side and line them up, making sure that we match on both sides. For the front side, we had a number of 36 on each. On the back side, we're going to be looking closer to 35, I think. Yeah, right around the 35 mark is going to be equal on both sides. And then I will line up my plates and then I'll flip it over and tighten that down. First thing we want to do is make sure our bolt has a lock washer and a flat washer on it, and then I find that it's easier to try to thread this first one through. So just look up, see if we can spot our plate in there. I think we're actually gonna have to adjust ours a little bit forward. I kind of like to use the Allen key tool to do that if I can. And then put that bolt with the washers in, thread it by hand, and hope that it catches. If not, we might have to adjust that plate a little bit more. But in our case, we got it. Tighten that down with the 6mm Allen key. Repeat that process for the back one. For this back one, I find it's easier to put it on the tool first and sort of slide it up in there. It's really hard to do with your hand and just sort of pinching it up in there with your fingers. It's really easy once you've lined up the front one though. Once we have our towers, our crossbars, and everything else all secure, our last step is just to pop these lock cores onto the post here on the end. So just fit it in that opening, lock it in place, and you're ready to go. That right there was a quick look at the Yakima OverHaul HD adjustable truck bed ladder rack on our 2022 GMC Sierra 1500.